Hello, and welcome to our second Path Connections, a virtual talk story about active transportation here on Hawai'i Island. Path, this event is hosted every few months or so by Path. Our name stands for People for Active Transportation Hawaii. We're formerly People's Advocacy for Trails Hawaii, but we go by Path. I'm just thrilled today to be here to welcome John Andoh, who is the Mass Transit Interim Administrator here on Hawai'i Island. Before we dig into the active transportation conversation, a bit more about myself and about how you can connect with PATH. My name is Jess Thompson. I'm the current Executive Director at PATH. I am been here since November 2020. And prior to PATH, I worked both in educational leadership and nonprofit management, most recently at Oregon Walks. I'm a lifelong fitness walker. For 24 years, I commuted to work in Portland metro area by bus, by Max Train, by bike, by walking. And I'm fascinated by how communities can change patterns and systems for how we help each other get around. And I believe deeply, as does PATH, that the work before us is to create collective systems that allow us to get where we need to go in ways that are cleaner and healthier for our bodies and for our climate and our earth. Which is why I'm so honored today to welcome Mr. John Andoh to PATH Connections. Welcome, John. John
Thank you, Jessica.
Yes, thank you. John is the County of Hawaii's Interim Mass Transit Administrator. He began this position just a couple of months ago and has already done so much to advance the county's multimodal transportation plan, more than any of us could have imagined in such a short amount of time. He comes to Hawai'i County with decades of experience in mass transit management, most recently in North Carolina, Oregon, and California. Before we jump in, a few housekeeping items. We have muted the viewer microphone, it's our dear friend, Tina Clothier, and former executive director and one of the founders at PATH is joining us today for the conversation later on. Tina, if you have any questions before then, just throw them in the chat and we'll make sure at the end we get to them. So first question, John, welcome to PATH. Have been so looking forward to our conversation. Before we dig in, can you tell us a little bit about your career and what draws you to Hawai'i Island specifically?
So I've been working in public transit for the last 21 years. I got my start right after high school, and I'm originally from California, and I've managed rural, small urban, and large urban transit systems across the country. My specialty has been working with transit systems that have needed rejuvenation or implementation of new programs, services, and also restructuring the system for operational efficiencies. Previously, I was the executive director of the Comet in Columbia, South Carolina, where I was there for 3 years, where I did some innovations, including making the Comet more of a mobility manager and just not a typical public transit agency, and implementing multiple services such as van pools, bike sharing, flexible demand response type services, and implementing a lot of technology. What brought me to Hawai'i County was the need to, by the mayor, to implement the actions of the transit and multimodal transportation master plan adopted in 2018, and to basically restructure Hele On to be a true economic driver for this island and bring in new modes to help move people around, such as our partnership with PATH to implement high bike, implement van pools, partnerships with Lyft and Uber, and a new route network that makes it easy for people to get around the island.
Wonderful, wonderful. I know that I speak for many when I say we are so happy that you are here and you are devoting yourself to this, some would say Herculean task, and we're very glad that you are here. Can you kind of set the stage for us? Many people have this idea of transit systems that include affordable mass transit and micro mobility options, that they're kind of just for cities. Like only people who live in Chicago or LA or New York or Seattle have access to using transit as a way to get around without a car or a single occupancy vehicle. However, you know, as your work has shown, transit systems are for everyone, including people who live in rural areas like Hawai'i Island. What have you learned about improving transit systems in more rural areas, covering such a large area such as Hawai'i Island?
You know, I had this challenge when I was actually in Columbia, South Carolina, where we served 2 counties, Richland and Lexington counties. And of course, Columbia was the large urban area, but the surrounding areas around Columbia was highly rural. And they have just as important transit needs that an urban area does. And in this case of this island, 4,200 square miles, and the need for people to work in the east, live in the east and work in the west, and how to get people efficiently from the east to the west is of paramount concern. Also within the urbanized areas of our rural environment, like Hilo, Kailua Kona, Waimea, and the Pahoa areas, there's needs for internal circulation for people to either access jobs, educational opportunities, healthcare, pharmacy, recreation, wherever life will need to take you. And by bringing in multimodal opportunities into those type of areas is how you are able to be able to meet the creative needs of transporting those folks. And it can be as much as bike share, for instance. A bike share system works very well as the first mile, last mile in connecting people from a transit bus to the final destination. And those can work in rural areas. For instance, demand response type services, whether it's taxi, using transportation network companies like Lyft and Uber, or even volunteer transportation where you have volunteers driving people and they're getting reimbursed on a mileage rate is a perfect way to help people in those areas where you just can't have traditional mainline bus service.
That's great. That's beautiful. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. And that's great context. So it seems like a great time to jump into the multi-mobility plan specifically that was adopted for Hawai'i Island. Can you tell us a little bit, you know, at the 50,000 foot level, kind of talk us through the history of this plan, how it came to be, and then what some of the highlights are?
So the last time that the county studied the Hele On transit system was in 1992. And it was a 25-year plan to set the framework for providing public transportation island-wide. Back in 1992, the transit system was fairly rural, had limited routes, primarily operated Monday through Saturday, and it was really a focus to connect people from jobs or from housing in Hilo to jobs that were in West Hawaii, like the South Kahala resorts. And there's some limited internal circulation within Kailua Kona and Hilo, and some routes that connected folks to Ocean View, Volcano, and Pahoa. Since 1992, the county has grown exponentially, primarily in the Puna district, in Kailua Kona, and in the suburban areas that are connecting those communities. But the transit system has not necessarily caught up. And coupled with that, we're faced with some unreliability issues in even being able to deliver the services to the island. So the county council felt it was time to restudy the transit system and set the pattern for it to be successful for the next 20 years. We engaged a consultant team in 2015, and from 2015 to 2018, they worked hard in studying transportation patterns, reviewing the various communities on this island, and then came up with recommendations to make a system that could be a true economic driver, which is today the Transit and Multimodal Transportation Master Plan that was adopted in August of 2018. And there's key elements in this master plan with 5 principal goals. And as part of those elements, it includes redesigning the entire transit network to a hub and spoke system. So in the denser areas of the island, you would have hubs where feeder routes will go into those hubs and then connect people to inter-community routes to allow people to connect to other hubs to get to their destination. That's a very popular concept in areas like us. Honolulu actually runs a hub and spoke system, as does the county of Maui. Then to bring in the multimodal component, we also talk about our paratransit service, which provides transportation services for persons with disabilities that cannot ride traditional Hele On bus service. Enhancements to our shared ride taxi program, which would include partnerships with Lyft and Uber for people to get around primarily the urbanized areas of our island, but also in communities where transportation options may be limited. To further promote our demand responsive specialized programs through our partnerships with the Hawai'i County Economic Opportunities Council and the Brantley Center, where they will actually provide door-to-door services for anybody that may need to travel to shopping, education, recreation, and medical appointments. And they generally provide service in areas where there's no Hele On bus service whatsoever. And then our partnership with PATH, and that's in providing bike sharing opportunities so people can actually have that first mile, last mile connection from the transit system to other destinations in those areas. And we have multiple stations that we are funding in partnership with PATH, and we're also launching an opportunity for Hele On passengers to ride high bike at no additional cost by merely getting a code from our bus operator to definitely show that that intermodal connection. And then another program that we're going to be launching in 2022 is a van pool program. And this will allow commuters to form vans, which we will subsidize, and people will be able to travel to employment sites on the island at their discretion, meaning that their van pool group can actually set their schedule, set their fares, and basically run their own little mini transit service to connect people. And then we can report their statistics as part of our transit system, because the van pool program will be an extension of our transit system. And we're going to continue to study other multimodal options like car sharing, volunteer transportation, so that we can have true mobility opportunities for people who need to get around the island, because the ultimate end goal is to reduce traffic congestion and drive economic opportunities for our island.
Wow, that's really inspiring, John. You know, it's as you're talking and kind of painting this picture of what it's going to look like as you roll out this multimodal transportation plan, it creates such a important picture for how this type of transportation system might look different from what many people have in their mind when they think of mass transit systems, like the one, you know, from that Hele On was 20 years ago, and what many of us think of when we think of more traditional, just bus moving people back and forth, those types of systems in the bigger cities. When you're on a large rural island, there is such a need to, you know, really personalize these transportation modes. I'm really excited to see how this takes off, and I feel like Hele On is really going to be an innovator, and the mass transit team here is going to be an innovator in that. So thank you so much for leading us in this direction. So we'll go to our next question. What have you been able to accomplish already this year in such a short time? I know because I get to work with you, and also I read the paper, and every single week there's something new coming out from mass transit that I'm like, wow, already? They're doing it already? Can you share with us some of the big accomplishments?
Yeah, we've done a lot. Gosh, it's been 3 months. We have launched the first phase of the master plan and restructured all the routes island-wide. We have later bus service, Sunday and holiday bus service, frequent routes that run on consistent headways. And we've added new routes such as a route that connects Hilo and Kailua Kona via the Daniel K. Nui Highway, or also known as Saddle Road. New routes in downtown Hilo, more routes to the Kona Airport, additional redesigned routes in the Kailua Kona area to make trips more seamless, and the integration of the Kona trolley into the Hele On system. And we run trolley vehicles on Ali'i Drive. We now accept credit cards at our transit centers and at our main office for people to buy monthly passes and 10-ride ticket books and paratransit tickets and shared ride taxis. This week, we're doing a soft launch of a service called Token Transit, which allows you to buy your bus fare on an app. And you can use a credit card or even a cash wallet to take advantage of that. We are developing an app as we speak where people can plan their trip and be able to access how many bicycles are at a bike share station, pay their transit fares, and order a Lyft and an Uber ride. We also are going to have our data inside what is called Google Maps so that you can basically plan your trip using the Google Transit Trip Planner. And you can also compare travel times on a Hele On bus to biking, walking, or driving. We're in the process of purchasing brand new buses to replace the entire Hele On fleet. And we have enough grants to get 37 new buses over the next 2 to 3 years. We are also implementing a hydrogen pilot project in Kailua Kona on routes 202 and 204. And that first hydrogen bus should be here next month. And that'll be a great opportunity to test zero emissions. In addition to that, we have a demonstration bus that runs in Hilo as an electric bus. And we also have another demonstration bus that we're also running in the Hilo area as well from manufacturers Proterra and BYD. We have rebranded ourselves. We have a brand new logo that focuses on the Ohia Lua flower and the colors of red, which is the island color. And we're in the process of redesigning how the buses will look. And we have actually 2 options that you can choose from on the Hele On social media page if you would like to participate in that vote. We've been getting a lot of comment and feedback from people on what the new Hele On design should be. So it's fairly exciting because this will be the first time where we would have all the buses on island with one consistent paint scheme, which is a huge achievement. We also have created social media pages and we're doing more active marketing. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. You can just search Hele On Bus if you wanted to join in on our social networks. We're in the process of redesigning our website to make it more accessible, friendly, and to be able to have more information for people to utilize all these multimodal services, bus, paratransit, bike sharing, demand response, van pools, and taxis. Gosh, the list just continues. I mean, those are some of like the biggest highlights I could think of, but I know there's probably more that I'm missing. Oh yeah, there's like the DOE partnership for people who need school bus transportation. You can apply through Student Transportation Office with the Department of Education, and you can get a bus pass from them to access Hele On services to your nearest school. And it's a way to help DOE with the school bus transportation crisis that they've been facing this year.
So many wins in implementing this plan in the last couple of months. And again, it is more than any of us thought was possible. So thank you for everything that you have done and the team has done. It's just truly wonderful. And for those that are not living on Hawai'i Island, just the bus going over Saddle is a game changer for so many people. To go from Hilo to Kailua Kona used to take 3 hours, and now it takes just a little over an hour and a half. And it's just wonderful. And yeah, I can't wait to see what the coming years have in store for us. So having said that, what do you kind of foresee in the next couple of years as, you know, or I guess this is a twofold question. What do you see in terms of what's coming forward in the next couple of years? And then what do you think what will this look like when it's fully implemented, and how long will it be before it's fully implemented?
So what I see in the coming years is just continuing to implement all of the efforts that has been identified in the master plan. Fleet replacement is going to be the biggest thing. We need a fleet of the future, and we're in the process of doing that now. And that's going to be transitioning from diesel and fossil fuel type vehicles to zero emissions, whether it be battery electric and or hydrogen. And the goal is to have the entire fleet replaced by 2025, which will help give the county residents 12 years of a good, reliable fleet to deliver all the services in this master plan. Getting into the subdivisions with alternative opportunities besides traditional bus is going to be phase 2. So having either micro transit or small vehicles running, like let's say in Hawaiian Paradise Park, Hawaiian Acres, Orchid Land, Ocean View, along the Hamakua coast, to connect people from mainline Hele On routes to the neighborhoods, so that people don't necessarily have to walk. And it's kind of like with the bike sharing and the last mile connection. Expanding bike share is definitely a goal of ours, and having more stations in the Hilo, Kailua Kona areas, potentially in Pahoa and in Waimea, would be great opportunities to promote biking in those areas. The full construction of hubs and bus stop improvements, more bus shelters. These hubs are where these routes will connect in off-road locations. And at these hubs, there would be community centers where we would have buildings with restrooms, maybe libraries, higher educational opportunities, a community room for meetings, customer service for people to get transit information and bus passes. And they'll also have bike share stations, parking lots for people who may want to park and ride, parking for van pools. And if we can bring a car sharing vendor service to our island, perhaps it'll be a hub for folks to be able to get a car to drive to particular destinations. We also want to foster transit-oriented development, which will spur additional density in those areas where we have the hubs. I could see full implementation on the master plan going to take the entire life of the master plan, which is 20 years. However, the main concepts within this master plan, I can foresee if we continue the path that we're on, we can have the main elements done at least by 2025.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Can you tell us a bit about bike share on Hawai'i Island, how it came to be, and why it's such an important piece of the county's multi-modal transportation plan?
So bike sharing it's another form of mobility management and connecting people to destinations where maybe it doesn't make sense to ride a transit bus to do so. It also promotes active, healthy transportation. As I understand, in 2016, PATH, in partnership with the County of Hawaii's Research and Development Department, piloted a bike share system in Kailua Kona to test how bike sharing could work on this island. And then it was expanded to the Hilo area. As part of that expansion, this is where the Mass Transit Agency came on and started to subsidize the bike share operation to incorporate it into the family of services that the Mass Transit Agency provides. And now with our most recent initiatives to connect Hele On users to the system, I can see getting additional bike sharing trips made on High Bike. It's very important to have this High Bike system as part of Hele On for a multitude of reasons. One, it connects the first mile and the last mile connection for people who need to get from the bus or to the bus from wherever they're coming from. It will also promote healthy, active exercise for people as they're trying to do that first mile, last mile connection. It can also provide opportunities to where we may not have to provide a bus route to particular areas because we have these bike share stations that can serve as that need in areas where it may not make sense for us to just provide a bus route because the destination may be close enough to mainland transit. Or we may not have to deviate a mainland transit route because of the fact that we can have these bike share stations near bus stops that people can use to get to and from that destination that may be off route. And with the recent grant that PATH has received to expand the network, we're very excited to be a part of that expansion and get more bike share stations, particularly near transit bus stops, to further promote that multimodal connectivity.
Excellent, excellent. If someone wants to take mass transit, wants to take Hele On from either Hilo or Kona towns or between communities, what can they do to plan their trip?
Personally, right now, we have launched a customer service center, which is open Monday through Sunday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And passengers and people interested in riding Hele On can call that number, 808-961-8744, option number 1, to get connected to that customer service center. We also have our schedules available online at www.heleonbus.org. But we're going to go one step further. And once we have our what is called general transit fee specification finalized, people will be able to plan their trip using Google Maps, Apple Maps, Bing Maps, third-party app developers like Transit and Move It to be able to plan their trips. And we're also in the process of adding automatic vehicle locator service on all of our vehicles so that you can also see where our vehicles are in real time. And through trip planning and using the AVL system, you'll be able to, for routes that run less frequently than an hour, instead of you standing outside thinking the bus is going to come and it might be stuck in traffic, you'll be able to, let's say, go wait inside a store or go get us something to eat or drink if you see that your bus is running late, and be able to arrive at your bus stop minutes before the bus actually arrives. I think it's going to be a much valuable tool in just making transit easy, fast, fun, and friendly for people that want to use our services.
Yes, yes. As a longtime mass transit user, I can tell you I lived by my app, my transit app, and I can't wait for that to come to Hawai'i Island. It's going to be a game changer for sure. Okay, we have time for a few questions here. Let's see, we have a few. I'm gonna invite Tina and Mr. Bush to come off their mute and ask some questions. And if you wanna, show camera too, feel free.
If I may, I'll go first. Hi, John. Tina Clothier here.
Hi, Tina.
Hi. Just again, congratulations for all that you and your department have been able to accomplish in a very short time. And we're just delighted to have you a part of our Hawai'i Island community. And thank you so much for your hard work. So my question is, as you might guess, is what do you foresee bike share, high bike, looking like, let's say in 5 years or less, and how can high bike better, so that high bike can better serve the entire Hawai'i Island community?
I see high bike as another one of the programs that can help articulate the Mass Transit Agency's mission in moving people. And I would like to see additional stations, not only in the Kailua Kona areas and Hilo, but definitely in Waimea and Pahoa. And as more of these communities get further developed, perhaps we can add high bike in Pahala or in Ocean View, or even maybe at the Waikoloa resorts for people who are at the resorts wanting to go maybe from the Hilton to King Shops or the Queens Marketplace. So I could see it providing another creative way to get people around their respective community, but also as that first mile, last mile to Hele On. And as we continue to promote high bike into the Hele On rider network, I'm hoping to see that Hele On riders will take advantage of high bike, especially with us funding Hele On users to ride high bike with them not having to pay any additional costs, and being able to address the unbanked community by allowing them to use debit cards with Visa, MasterCard logos, and not necessarily having to have a bank account in order to get a bicycle, which helps the low income community and the unbanked community.
Oh, that's wonderful news. That has always been a barrier to bike share usage is not having the availability for unbanked customers. So thank you so much.
Of course.
There I am. Hello, John.
Hey, Mr. Bush, good to see you.
I'm still James. It's okay.
I know.
Good to see you, man.
It's that southern environment I had.
So many environments you have had, sir. Hey, who does the routing for you guys? Use Via, Uber, or who do y'all use?
So right now we contract with a vendor called Roberts Hawaii, and they run the Hele On fixed route bus service. We have Ace One Taxi that does our Hele On Kaku paratransit service. And then we have Hawai'i County Economic Opportunities Council and Brantley Center that does our specialized demand. Like what you have with pickup by Capital Metro, we would like to either have a relationship with taxis, Lyft, Uber, or potentially Via that can do those specialized demand response services.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we use Via up here. I invite you next time you come to Austin, let me know, man. I'll give you a tour, show you our pickup service.
I'll actually be in Austin in a couple of days after this APTA conference, so I'll give you a call. I would like to ride pickup, especially in some of your newer areas like Pflugerville, Leander.
Yeah, we have 11 zones now. We're all over the place.
That's amazing.
Yeah. The hardest part, I think, was to get the MTM folks to learn to trust their operators to enable to do a remote relief where they go from the house, pick up their vehicle, do their route, then go back home. And on weekend, the maintenance folks come and service those vehicles and change them out. But that was the hardest part because it's like a new process for them, something that everybody does all over the world. But of course, us not doing it before, it took a little while to do it.
And it's interesting to bring that up because since our master plan talks about these demand response microtransit zones in areas that are away from our base yards in Hilo and Kailua Kona, we may have to do situations like that because if we don't, it's going to be a deadhead of upwards of 40 to 60 miles to get to one of our base yards. And that's not, as you know, not cost effective.
Yeah, and it also it gives you more space in order to park your vehicles. Instead of parking all our vehicles in one location, we could park in satellite locations. I'm hoping that we could have more remote relief routes, zones basically, where we could park the vehicle out there. I think the only shortcut would be a place to keep them. We had the MOVE conference down here. Another thing they spoke about, they were real heavy on electric vehicles. And that is the perfect demand response, in my opinion, is the perfect place for it. Because you basically terminal the vehicle in one spot while you wait. And while that vehicle is waiting, he could be charging.
Right,
and
exactly.
You're only going to like a 3-mile radius location. So when he's not doing anything, he sits there and charges, waits for the next ride. It worked really well.
That makes perfect sense. The Hawai'i County or the mayors of the state of Hawaii, along with the governor, has committed transitioning statewide fleets and public transit vehicles to zero emissions by 2045. So as we start going into more demand response type services, it is our intent to want to replace our gasoline powered vehicles in favor of either battery electric or hydrogen. So
Oh, okay.
that example you mentioned would be perfect for these microtransit zones.
Yeah, it's the wave of the future. All right. That's basically all I had. Nice talking to you. Thank you.
Likewise.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
Okay, John, before we sign off, I just want to let folks know, if they're watching this recording, that they can see the links to the materials we discussed, including the multimodal transportation plan for Hawai'i County, included in the comment section of wherever we post this video, which will for sure be on our social media page, your social Hele On social media page, our newsletter, our website, and yours as well. John, you get the last word. So I was wondering if you could share one piece of advice or piece of wisdom that you could give those of us working on Hawai'i Island towards safe, accessible, active transportation, multimodal options on Hawaii as we work towards, a reality where anybody that has to go somewhere on Hawai'i Island has options in terms of safe, accessible, clean mass transit options. What piece of advice or wisdom do you give us, knowing as you do the kind of context that we're in?
It took us a while to implement these actions of this plan that was well written, and I think it might have been, is it possible for us to implement? And the only way you can try something is if you try it and see what happens. And in order to motivate our contractor and our staff to get behind and support implementation of this was having an implementation plan and having the right partners in place to make this happen. So taking that chance in trying something that is fundamentally different that people aren't used to, and then making adjustments as we go to make it the best product can be, I think is the best advice that I can give. And even when launching new programs like this, had we not done this approach, we'd probably have not been able to pull off a lot of the actions that we've done in this short period of time. And we continue to refine. And I hope by mid-2022 that we'll have the right products for the residents and visitors of Hawai'i Island.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, John, I hope that you'll come back in 2022 and have this conversation again, and we can kind of celebrate what happened and look back at how far this plan has come here on the island.
Definitely would like that.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much for coming. And for those of you that tuned in, thank you for tuning in and for your thoughtful questions. And until we meet again, hui hou.
Aloha.